You ever look around at your life and think, why do I still feel this way? You changed jobs, moved, started new habits, maybe even walked away from people who weren't good for you. But the feeling didn't leave. You still feel off, disconnected, empty. But not the kind of empty you can explain to someone. Just this quiet, dull heaviness that doesn't really go away. And maybe you've thought, what's wrong with me? I've thought that too, more than once. But lately, I've started to wonder if maybe there's nothing wrong with us. Maybe we're just starving for something deeper, and we've been trying to feed that hunger with things that don't reach it. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being surrounded by everything you thought would fix you, but still feeling like something's missing. I don't know about you, but I've had times where I looked around and thought, I did everything I was supposed to do. Why do I still feel so far from peace? That's the kind of emptiness I'm talking about. The kind that doesn't go away when you get what you wanted. Because maybe what you wanted was never what your soul needed. I've started to believe that a lot of the emptiness people feel comes from trying to solve a spiritual hunger with physical solutions. New job, new relationship, new hobby, new haircut. And for a while it helps. But eventually, the feeling comes back. And when it does, we panic. We start chasing again. Maybe I need something else. Maybe more. But more doesn't always mean closer. More doesn't always mean fuller. Sometimes more is just noise. There's this story I read once about a man who spent his whole life chasing success. He built a company, made millions, had the house, the wife, the image. And then, in his 50s, he collapsed from stress. When the doctor asked what he was so stressed about, he said, I just realized I built my whole life on nothing. That stuck with me. He didn't mean he had nothing. He meant he was nothing, inside. Because none of the things he built ever touched the deeper part of him. That reminded me of someone else. Solomon, the king in the Bible who had everything, wisdom, power, women, money, anything he wanted, he could have. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, he says something that feels so real to me. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure, yet everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. It's like he got to the top of the mountain we're all climbing and found it was empty up there. At the end of the book, he says, fear God, keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man. And I don't think he meant that in a controlling or religious way. I think what he meant is, when we forget what we're really here for, we chase shadows and call it success. Lately, I've been asking myself, what if the emptiness isn't a flaw, but a message? Not a punishment, just a sign that I've been disconnected from what really matters. I'm not trying to speak like someone who has it all figured out, because I don't. I've just been sitting with this a lot. And the more I do, the more I start to believe this. We were never meant to live this far from meaning. Sometimes I wonder if the reason we keep changing things on the outside is because we're afraid to face what's happening on the inside. New job, new goal, new plan. It keeps us moving. It gives us something to chase. And maybe that's easier than sitting still and asking, why do I still feel like this? Because deep down, I think most of us know. The noise isn't fixing it. It's just covering it up. And we've gotten good at hiding what's really going on, even from ourselves. We've been taught to measure our lives by progress. But what if we're making progress in the wrong direction? What if the path looks right on the outside, but leads nowhere? I've been there. doing everything I thought I was supposed to do, but still feeling empty, still feeling far from peace. And it's frustrating, because you start to think it's you, like maybe something's wrong with you that can't be fixed. But lately, I've started to wonder, what if it's not a personal failure? What if it's a sign, a quiet warning from the soul that says, you're drifting away from what really matters? Not because you're bad, not because you're weak, but because you've been busy, distracted, trying to keep up with a life that maybe was never built to bring you peace in the first place. We think burnout only comes from work, but sometimes burnout comes from living a life that's not aligned with who you really are, from chasing goals you never stopped to question, from carrying expectations that were never yours to begin with. And maybe that's why the emptiness hurts so much, because it's not just sadness. It's the pain of being disconnected from yourself and from God. That kind of suffering isn't loud. It doesn't show up in breakdowns or dramatic moments. It shows up in quiet ones, when you have a second to breathe and realize something's missing. And I'm not saying I have the answer, but I think asking that question, what's missing, is the start of something important. You don't have to figure it all out right now, but maybe you just need to stop, just for a moment, and give yourself permission to listen to what you've been ignoring, to what's been silent for too long, because maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're just tired of running in circles, and the emptiness, maybe that's not your enemy. Maybe that's the invitation back home. The world tells us we're here to chase comfort, chase success, chase attention. But I don't think the soul wants comfort. I think it wants clarity. It wants connection. It wants purpose. And when we don't have that, when we're drifting, the soul starts to suffer. Not loudly, just persistently. It hurts when we go too long without slowing down. It hurts when we stop listening to what actually matters. And it aches when we trade peace for progress and don't even realize it. Sometimes I wonder if that emptiness people feel isn't depression or failure, but the soul whispering, this isn't it. Not, this is wrong. Not you're bad. Just, this isn't it. There's more. If you've been feeling that, I don't think you need to shame yourself. I don't even think you need to fix anything right away. Maybe you just need to pause, to breathe, to sit still long enough to hear what's under the noise. You don't have to figure it all out today, but I think there's value in admitting, I'm not okay, and I don't want to keep pretending I am. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just being called home to something deeper, not to a religion, not to a system, but maybe back to God, or meaning, or whatever you want to call the thing your soul keeps reaching for when everything else falls short. The good news is, if you can feel the emptiness, you're not numb yet. There's still life in you, still curiosity, still a whisper beneath the noise. And maybe that's where healing begins, not in fixing everything, but in finally listening to what's been silent for too long. If this spoke to you, let it sit with you for a while. You don't need to rush away. Let the silence say what words never could. Not every answer needs words.